Iain Lee is a radio and television presenter known for his shows over the years on the BBC, LBC, Talk Radio, and Saving Lives on Air. But despite all that, rather annoyingly, people might know you best for stealing the strawberries on I'm a Celebrity.
Beautiful strawberries. There's nothing annoying about that. It was a great moment in my life. I'm very proud of it.
Yeah. So you're launching this new station called Radio Anywhere. What
Yes.
are you able to tell us about the station, really?
I can tell you, it's bloody hard work setting up a radio station, it turns out. Who'd have thought? Radio Anywhere. Right. So I love radio. I think I'm quite good at it, and I can't get a job in the radio at the moment. So I thought it would be... Loads of people kept saying, you should set up your own radio station. And I would say, well, if you give me £50,000 to do it, I'll do it.
Yeah.
And then I kind of got in touch with this company, radio.co, and I said, I'd like to do something with you, but I don't know if I can afford it. So they came with a sweet deal. And basically, slight advert for them, because they have been really generous. Radio.co, it has this whole system where you can build a radio station, and you can get apps, and you can do live shows, and you can play music and stuff like that. And it was simple enough that even an idiot like me could set it up. So that's kind of the technical stuff. But the station is going to be, there's so much hatred on the radio at the moment.
Yeah.
People ripping up masks and saying that you can grow concrete and all of that. And there's no silliness. There's no whimsy. There's no, lightheartedness. And that's kind of what I want to bring back. So the basic premise is, let's just have a laugh, man. Let's have some fun.
Yeah. And why have you decided to call it Radio Anywhere? Where did the name come from?
I'm terrible with names. And my friend Catherine Boyle, who I will be doing something on the station at some point, she came up with 3. There was Radio Nowhere, there was Radio Anywhere, and I can't remember the other. And I just thought it was great. And then you've got the line that I'm too embarrassed to use, which is, you can listen to Radio Anywhere. But it sounds a bit cheesy, but it's good. Yeah. It's just a good name. It's upbeat and it's positive. It doesn't, lock you into a region or into a country. It's kind of nice and optimistic, I think.
Yeah. And is it going to be speech content like you're kind of known for, or would there be a bit of music in there, or does it kind of depend on who's on air at the time?
There is... Right, so there is music playing right now, and basically it's my iPod from 10 years ago, so it's quite a limited selection. There's a lot of Monkeys and a lot of Dolly Parton, so I need to upload some more music, but the music is not the key thing. I want it to be primarily speech, and at the moment I'm the only person doing live shows, so I'm going to be doing a live phone-in 3 or 4 nights a week. I don't quite know yet, around 10 o'clock. For an hour or 2 hours, which is kind of, what I guess I'm famous for in radio terms, is doing a silly phone-in. And we've got some really, really good shows. I mean, genuinely good shows. And this isn't me going, hey, we've got some great shows. We've actually got some great shows. Loads of people got in touch, and I reached out to some people, and I turned a lot of people away because they were keen, but they weren't very good. And so I've gone for quality. So we have my friends, Dave, Matt, Sean and James, who do this great podcast called The Computer Game Show. It's been going for years, and it's kind of wonderful, and it's not really about computer games that much. There's a bit of it. And they've won awards and stuff, and they're great. So that was one I knew. The Muggy Bonehead Show is another one I knew, and it's Dan and Billy, and it's like my show, but pushed even further. It's insane, man. It's like psychedelic, and it's wonderful. And then 2 shows that kind of, one came to me and one Catherine found, and I think these are great. There's the Fadson Podcast, which is this young guy and his friend, and they talk about the show I listened to, right? They were talking about new albums by Drake and by Kanye. I have zero interest in Drake and Kanye, but they were so engaging to listen to. They made it so interesting. I was hooked. And I thought, if they can make Kanye and Drake interesting to me, then the rest of the show is great. And they're brilliant. And they talk about, mental health and race. And they do really light-hearted stuff as well. And the other show that Catherine found, and I'm really excited about this, the Nerdy T-Shirt Club. Ooh. And it's these 2 women swearing and just kind of going off on tangents and stuff. And it's funny, man. It's really, really funny. Yeah. And if nothing comes of this station, the fact I found Fadson and the Nerdy T-Shirt Club is enough for me. That will be a reward enough for me.
Yeah. And it's important to have a lot of speech content on a station because I don't know why, but a lot of online stations seem to be thinking, let's just play music all the time. But if people wanted that, they'd just listen to a CD or Spotify, wouldn't they? And they get to choose it.
Yeah, that's what I always thought. I don't really get music radio, and there will be some music. I mean, the music at the moment is filler, right?
Yeah.
Because to fill the gaps, and I'm hoping at some point to get some more live shows in, but it's a little bit fiddly, and I would like there to be like a music show. At the moment, it's just automated and it's playing all these songs, and at the weekend it plays the Beatles and the Monkees. Yeah. But I would like it to... Oh, speaking of music shows, there is a music show. Ooh. My friend PDT does a show called Theme On, and it's him basically picking old TV theme tunes and kind of linking them all together and having a guest. I would like a couple more music shows, like a live music show. But at the moment... I've got enough. I'm doing all of this on my own, and I'm overwhelmed at how much work there is, man. So there will be some music, but for me, speech is where it's at. That's always been my thing.
Yeah, and because you don't really plan your shows as much as other people, it's sort of all on the night. How do you manage to stay so sharp for a good few hours? Because it must be hard to keep the conversation going.
It's not always that sharp. Sometimes it's a bit flat. But then when it gets flat, I'll say, it's a bit flat. What can we do?
Yeah.
It's hard to keep the conversation going. No, it's not. If we were sat in Costa, I would find this hard. If we were out for lunch, I would find this hard because there is something about my ADHD or whatever that means I struggle with a one-on-one conversation in real life or with a group of people in real life. But the radio is performance, and I can perform. So 3 hours once when I used to work at BBC WM, there was a new boss, and she didn't like the show. And I was going down to the studio one day, and she said, "What's on the show today?" And I said, "I haven't got a clue." She went, "What?" I said, "I've got no idea." And I had to go and have a meeting afterwards and explain what that meant. And that for me is where the fun is going in with nothing. Yeah. And it's that excitement that kind of makes it happen. And I do think that to be a decent phone-in host, you have to assume you're going to get no phone calls, and you have to be able to fill 3 hours with no phone calls. Pile of newspapers and what's in your head. That should be able to fill a 3-hour show. And if you can't do that, you shouldn't be doing the job.
And I suppose even with callers, sometimes a bit of silence can be good. It's sort of good for comedic timing or making them look like an idiot, maybe. I don't know. See what you're doing now. Yeah.
There we go. Thank you. Silence is good, and it took me a long time to learn that. I thought you had to fill the gaps. And it wasn't until I was at Three Counties Radio, I don't know, 6-7 years ago, that I learned the magic of silence. And it's great if you're interviewing someone in a position of power, like an MP or a councillor or a boss or a chief of police or something, because it's uncomfortable. That silence there was uncomfortable, right?
Yeah,
and it's
I thought I'd said something wrong.
Yeah, exactly. and you broke the silence. You felt that you had to say something, and that's the magic of it. Now I know I don't have to say anything, right? Yeah. And so I asked someone a question. Why did this happen? They give me their answer, and I just sit there looking at them. They feel that they have to fill that silence, so they'll always tell you a little bit more than they were planning to tell. Silence is great. Silence, if I'm listening to the radio and there's silence, I'll turn the radio up or I'll move closer to the radio. And that is a powerful lesson that I learned.
Yeah, absolutely. And about the thing about, like, if you were in the coffee shop and you wouldn't be able to do this, I think I'm exactly the same. It's weird, isn't it? Because I don't really see what the difference is
May I make an observation about something I've noticed in both of us? We're doing this on Zoom, so I can see you. And eye contact is always an odd thing on Zoom, because for me to do eye contact, I have to look up there, but I'm not looking at you now. But I have noticed, and maybe I've got this wrong, so I'm sure you'll tell me if I have.
Okay.
We're both looking all over the place, doing everything we can to not look at each other. Yeah. And I wondered, I know for me it's because it's uncomfortable to be looking at you. And I wondered what was going on for you.
Yeah, it is. It's uncomfortable. Even people I know, I suppose, looking at them is weird. Why would I want to do that, I guess, is my thought process. But yeah, I've always found it awkward to look at people. I remember teachers at school, I suppose, I would be looking somewhere else. And I don't know, they probably think it's rude, right? But it's just shyness or something, I don't know.
Yeah. I recently got diagnosed as ADHD, and my God, it's explained.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's explained so much of my behaviour that people considered to be rude, or when I was at school, I was thick and naughty, and it wasn't. It was just that I can't sit still. Mine isn't really actually a kind of a bouncy thing. It can be a little bit, but I can't focus on a lesson for more than 5 minutes. I can't focus on a chalkboard or a whiteboard and absorb the information that way. I can't do it, and that's okay, but I've only just found out at the age of 48 that I'm not thick.
Yeah, definitely. So when you're in the car, what other stations do you like to listen to? Because presumably you won't be able to listen to this station in the car unless you're gonna use up your data.
Well, you can get. I mean, there are apps. There is an app, and I don't mind caning my data. I'm on GIFGAF. There are apps, and you can ask Alexa, and you can listen online at radioanywhere.live. What do I listen to in the car? I don't. I don't anymore. There's nothing that entertains me. The two speech shows that I like, I listen to podcasts. The two speech shows I like are Alan Bezic at Radio Manchester on a Saturday and Sunday night. It's the last of the old-fashioned late night phone-ins, of which I think I was a part of. It's the last one. And I can listen to bits of my friend James O'Brien, who I think was just one of the greatest broadcasters of our time. And I can listen to bits, but I find newsy and political stuff, I just find it depressing. So I choose not to. So at the moment, because of my kids, I listen to Capital a lot. I'm the old dude that listens to Capital. My boys love it. So we love a little bit of, Becky Hill, Dua Lipa, Mabel, Mr. Jam. Me and my boys love all of that stuff.
Yeah. And that's quite incredible that, the stuff that you do doesn't really happen anymore. Do you think that, if you were starting out in the radio industry just now, that you would either not get a job or have to go along the lines as everybody else and start?
I can't get a job now, so, let alone starting out. I was really blessed, right, in that I got a job on radio when I was kind of doing TV work, and there was an era at the beginning of this century where radio bosses just said, let's get people from TV in. So you'd get Toby Anstis and Jamie Theakston and all of these people and me, because we were on TV. So we must be able to do radio. And of course, they're two completely different skills. And a couple of them have, Theakston has gone on and to be great. And there are a few that stuck around, but a lot of them were rubbish. I was rubbish at the start. My first gig was at XFM, and that was a car crash. But then the next gig was at LBC, and I was rubbish. However, I had two bosses in guys called, and I owe everything to them, right? Scott Solder and David Lloyd, who both saw something in me. I was terrible. I was arrogant. I was afraid. I was angry. I was awful. I behaved really badly. But they saw something in me that I did not know. And I tell you, the key for me was, I was doing a show for like 3 months. It was Sunday nights, I think, and I'd replaced Brian Hayes, and I was doing a typical show where I'd go in and we'd find some news stories, and we'd go in and go, hey, have you heard about these mistaken song lyrics have you got? And hey, what's your favourite biscuit and stuff? And after 3 months, I went in for a meeting with Scott Solder, and he said, show's going okay, but it's a bit flat. He said, why don't you try going in without any news stories? And I said, what? What would I talk about? He said, just talk about your week. And I said, that sounds like, and I said to him, this sounds like an awful idea. It's going to be boring. Yeah. And he said, do it for 1 week. And if it doesn't work, you can go back the next week. And I went, all right. So I went in the next Sunday without any news stories. And I opened the microphone and I sat there. And then I just started talking. And people started calling in. And it was funny. And it felt more authentic, more congruent. And it was like, holy, this is what... Wow, this was amazing. It was like opening the door and seeing this wonderful field and thinking, oh my God, this is all mine? Yeah. And it was the best advice I'd ever been given. Could that happen today? No. Not on a national station or a local station, and there aren't many local stations because they're owned by national companies and it's fake local. Community radio is where it's at in terms of that's where the nerdy T-shirt girls kind of originated from, where Mugger Harris the show is. Community radio is where it's at, and podcasting. But then the thing is, how do you get an audience for that? I was lucky I was trained on LBC. They gave me the drive time on LBC. Jeez, imagine that. Imagine that.
Yeah, that's incredible. And I suppose the unscripted nature gives way to a lot of incredible moments because, for a lack of a better term, you breastfed Barry from Watford and kind of introduced him to the world. Yeah,
that was the show. He got. My friend Alex said, I've got an idea for a character. Can I phone up the show and do it? I said, yeah, but don't tell me anything about it. I don't want to know anything about it. And he phoned in, and I didn't recognise him for the first couple of minutes. And then I thought, oh, Christ, this is Alex. And, to see, it's weird that he's grown. I remember once he phoned in with his wife, Margaret, and it was Catherine Tate, and it was great. And Alex is a genius as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. He does these other great characters. Obviously, he does Clinton Baptiste, but he did a few. He did Stephen Murdoch, who was like the computer guy, and we did this on LBC. And this was still a time when people would have phone-in shows about technical issues. And so we said, right, we've got this guy, Stephen Murdoch, who will answer any of your computer and technical issues. And so someone phoned up and said, I'm having trouble converting this video file and burning it to DVD. And he said, right, have you tried turning it off and turning it on again? And they went, no, it's that I can't convert this. He said, turn it off and turn it on again. And then I would hang up and go, thank you for that. Let's go to the next one. And there was a call about internet security in internet cafes. And Murdoch was talking about making sure you don't hang your jacket over the back of your chair because someone might steal your wallet. And this was great. This was kind of quite subversive. So Alex Lowe and Barry from Watford and Joseph Lavens and all of these people he does, I think I love Alex so much. He's brilliant. Yeah.
Well, he was on the show a couple months ago and he said you were a genius as well. So.
Yes. He texted me. In fact... He might have texted me after he spoke to you, actually. He said, I've just done an interview and we talked about you and stuff. So it might have been that. He's brilliant. He's a complete arse in real life. He's one of the most obnoxious people I've ever met in my life. He really is a bully. But he's a funny guy. I'm joking, of course.
Yeah. Well, have you and Catherine got any kind of live shows coming up? Because I know you do a few.
We've got one on December the 12th at Luton at the Bear Club. It's sold out. But, we're trying something that can only end in disaster because it's technical. We're selling digital tickets for the show and digital tickets for backstage. And if you go to iainandcatherine.com, go to the merch page, the store, and you can buy digital tickets. And there's loads of wonderful other bits of merch that we have up there.
Yeah, and do you still do these membership cards, or is they a thing of the past now?
You've got one! What number are you?
42.
42 is my favourite. You're my favourite. You got number 42. Do we still do them? We have... Right, I'm writing that down. I have a whiteboard next to me. Membership cards. There we go. We had loads printed up for Twitch. Yeah. Just as our deal with Twitch came to an end. So I've got a big box of them that are useless now.
Yeah.
But... it's hard, we still do Patreon now, me and Kath, patreon.com/Iain and Catherine. And we do all our podcasts and a lot of our shows are behind paywalls and stuff. And it's tough. It's tough to make a living doing this outside of a job, you know. And I love Catherine. I love working with her, and I'm enjoying putting this radio thing together. But you know, I'm not doing it through choice. I'm doing it because there is no other option at the moment. And I would love to get, like, on a small local station, Friday, Saturday, Sunday night. That to me would be bliss, to have that slot as a phone-in. That would be the dream.
Yeah, and I take it there isn't really a way to make money from this online station directly, unless I suppose you could do this type of stuff you did on Twitch with sponsorship and things.
Well, thank you for asking, Toby. Do you know what? I am doing advertising, and it's dead cheap, right? It's 75 quid a week for 4 weeks, 300 quid for a month. And for that, you get the Strawberry Thief from I'm a Celebrity, playing adverts throughout the day, and also doing live reads in the evening. I'm doing a deal where if people are podcasters or streamers, they can come and plug their podcast or stream for 50 quid a week. But people can also sponsor a show. I can't remember, I think that's £40. You can sponsor a show, and the show will be dedicated to, let's say, your show, you know, and you'd get mentions and stuff like that. So there's not a lot of money in it, but I do think there is something in it. And we've got a handful of sponsors already, and we haven't even launched. Yeah. So, you know, that's great. No one's going to get rich, but that coupled with the Patreon money, suddenly we can pay the mortgage, you know, and feed one of the kids at least. So I'm really hoping that this radio thing will become something. We ain't going to take on Talk Radio or LBC, but I'm hoping it become this nice cult little thing that we can get maybe a couple of thousand listeners through a week. And people will want to sponsor, and the shows will be interesting, and people will want to listen. I'm really think there's something in it.
Yeah, definitely. Well,
now? Tell me about. Hang on a second. I want to ask you a question.
Okay.
So Shout Radio. So this is Shout Radio. What is Shout? I had a little look, but I want to hear from you. What is Shout Radio?
Well, I guess it's an online station similar to what you're doing, but we play a bit of music as well. My show is sort of half music and half speech, if you were to multiply it out, because I do interviews and stuff. Just a kind of online station with mixed music, and people kind of, I suppose it's good in the way that it's not like these big stations where the management tell you off and get involved. We're sort of just allowed to do our own thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the way. That's the freedom. And I was so lucky that I had that freedom on national radio stations, you know, and so I was getting paid for it. It got tricky towards the end of Talk, and they did kind of tell us what we had to do a little bit, and that was very tense, and that is why I'm not at Talk Radio anymore. So I was blessed. I think I was probably one of the last people to have the freedom to do whatever I wanted and play whatever I wanted and still get paid. But you're right, the freedom, and if you're enjoying the freedom, that's great. You know, if you're allowed to follow your artistic direction without anyone saying, what did you have that person on for? Or maybe you should get this person. That's great, man. That's great.
Yeah, definitely. So where are we able to find your station, Radio Anywhere, if we'd like to hear it?
You can. I'm so glad you asked. There is an app. Radio.co are brilliant, and they make apps for you. So there are apps on Google and on Apple, Radio Anywhere. And you can ask Alexa to play Radio Anywhere, and it turns out I can program what Alexa says to you in response. So I've made it slightly rude. And if you haven't got any of those things, if you go to radioanywhere.live, you can listen there, and there's merch up there as well. And the final thing is, there are going to be podcasts of my show. So if you look for Radio Anywhere on your podcast service, and one final plug, if I may be so bold, Tony. So that's the Radio Anywhere, and also there is the Patreon stuff, and it's podcasts, and it's videos, and it's shows, and it's private Zoom meetings, and that is at patreon.com, Iain and Catherine, IAIN, and Catherine with a K. Thank you.
Great. Well, thanks very much for joining us here this afternoon. It's been great talking to you.
Thank you, Toby. That's a great rehearsal. Shall we record it now, or how does this work?